Sometimes I don't even like talking about stuff that kind of bothers me because, at our age, if you're around my age, I'm 33, saying something scary to you, is it embarrassing? I don't know. But there's this movie scene that, like, I can't even lie, maybe 2 weeks ago, I just lost sleep for like 3 or 4 nights. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it's so weird because the scene is set up in a way that is like so not scary. Everything about it is almost anti-horror in a sense, but I think that's what makes it so scary. It's a movie scene that just stays with me. And it's so vivid, I'll play it from start to finish in my head. And in a weird way, I'll enjoy it, but in another way, I get heart palpitations thinking about it, which is, interestingly enough, the feeling that the scene is supposed to give you anyway. I don't know if anybody else will feel the same way about this scene or not, but I figured why not just talk about it because, sometimes it's good to talk about some of this stuff so I don't feel so weird. Maybe doing this video will be a mistake and I'll feel even weirder, but we'll see. I remember maybe it was like 2018, I finally started to watch something by David Lynch. It was a guy that I would hear about, but I'll be honest with you, like seeing the fandom that he had, I didn't really seem like I would have fit into people like that because, I don't know, something about David Lynch fans, and it's not an insult, it's actually somewhat of a compliment. I see them as being smarter kind of movie fans. If I said I watched Cheers and I also watched David Lynch, I'd feel like I'd just have eggs thrown at me, which, now I realize is silly. David Lynch films are films that people enjoy because they make them feel a certain type of way that really no other movie or director has been able to do. I mean, tell me a director that's kind of like David Lynch. I'll wait. There's really not, and there probably never will be. I started watching Twin Peaks, and, I was like probably the average person when I started watching Twin Peaks. Of course, watching the first episode was like the coolest thing of all time. I still think maybe to a certain extent that the debut episode of Twin Peaks is the greatest television show of all time. There's even a shot that David did in the living room that's so creepy. Think about it constantly. It's a shot of the camera looking up an open 2-story house with a fan going and a door open in the corner. It is so haunting. I don't know why he thinks of this stuff, but it's truly something that I would think about as a child having nightmares. It's an image that is so burned into my brain when I think about it that it's like, I don't know, I'm looking at it right now in my head. But that's actually not what this is about. So a few years after that, I would actually start watching some movies that he did, movies like The Elephant Man, which I actually think is just an emotionally gripping movie. I would even then watch Dune, which part of me likes, but the other part of me is kind of like David himself. I'm not a huge fan of it because it's so confusing. And that's saying a lot because David Lynch films in and of themselves are typically a little confusing, at least for people like me. I'm not able to really stop and just hypothesize about what his films are always trying to say, and sometimes I don't really feel the even need or want to just to see how the film makes me feel. It even reminds me one time of Roger Ebert stopping David Lynch at some big festival where he talked about the film we're about to talk about, Mulholland Drive, and said exactly this.
And at the end, I'll be able to understand it.
You better believe it. You already do understand it. Get a lot of good coffee, though, and some good food.
I understand it emotionally, and that's the important thing.
Exactly right.
We're getting ready to watch this film. The title of the movie was kind of weird to me already, like Mulholland Drive, but a lot of David Lynch movies have weird names in that you don't really know what they're going to be about, like Blue Velvet. Like, what kind of movie is Blue Velvet going to be before you actually see it? It's just one of those weird titles. Well, anyway, I start watching Mulholland Drive, and to say that I was confused a little bit by the film would be an understatement, but it's one of those movies where visually you just kind of watch what's happening, and you feel a little bit of uneasiness the entire time. Part of me is trying to figure it out, and another part of me just has to let go as I'm watching it, but Naomi Watts is always good in anything I've ever seen her in, and all of a sudden during this film, I finally get to the point where I start to let my guard down, and out of nowhere this scene happens in the movie that I don't think has any real relevance to anything else going on, which makes it so bizarre. But all of a sudden we get to this scene in the film where this guy and this other guy are sitting at a booth at a diner and they start to talk. I had no idea this scene was about to bother me the way that it did, but here we are. I think about this scene all the time, and when people ask me what the scariest movie scene is, I think it's this. I mean, seriously, this scene is so creepy and it shouldn't be, and I think that's why it is. Because it doesn't feel like a movie scare. I don't know how to explain it. So you got these two guys sitting in this booth at the diner, and the one guy starts to tell this other guy about the reason we're here is because I dream about this place. we're talking, and all of a sudden, I can't tell if it's just my imagination, but I feel like at a certain point, the lights get just a little dimmer in this diner. Not dark, because obviously it's bright daylight out, but there's something about the diner where it feels like something ominous is just invading the place. And the way this guy's talking to his buddy about this dream he's having, it's not like, dude, you should hear about the dream I had last night. It's almost as if this guy is possessed while he's telling it. Just like when you look at the way he talks, his eyes get buggier and buggier. It's almost like he's in some sort of a trance.
I get even more frightened when I see how afraid you are, and then I realize what it is.
I almost wonder, I'd love to be on the fly on the wall and see David directing this scene. Like, how do you go about this? How do you get this guy to tell a story in this way? Because it's not a way that anybody in real life would really tell a story like this, and it's not even something that I can really explain that well. You just gotta see what I'm talking about. But he describes seeing this disgusting person in the back of the diner, and like he just like would pass out. And while I'm watching this scene, I'm just like, what is going on? I'm so confused. I don't understand what I'm seeing. It just came out of left field, and before you know it, these guys leave the diner and they're going back to the spot where this guy's talking about. Now, this is what's so interesting to me. Here's a scene where you know there's going to be a jump scare. You know how it's going to happen. Everything is explained to you so well. It's almost like in those action films where Jean-Claude Van Damme says, first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then they come at him, and it happens exactly that way. Everything is like explained to the audience. Like, hey, it's almost like David wanted to make it easier for everybody because he knew that this person that was going to be this like haggard, gross looking bum would be like, I'm going to scare you guys, but I want to let you guys know about it so it's not too scary. But in a weird way, somehow he made the scene 10 times scarier by not lighting it in any sense of a horror film, by not set dressing anything to be all that creepy. It's just two guys walking behind a diner to where they're going to go see this hag, this bum. And all of a sudden, when they get to a certain point, this thing comes out from behind the corridor that is so fucking creepy, it just bothers me. And then people tell me that this is the woman that played the nun or whatever in the movies. And there's this behind the scenes shot of David Lynch sitting with the hag, and it is so freaking disturbing. This scene, there's no real explanation. Why did it happen? Why is everything shot un-horror movie like? Is Mulholland Drive a horror movie to begin with? Not really, but then there's some imagery in here that's more disturbing than anything you'd see from a John Carpenter film. So I don't know, you guys tell me, you be the judge. But this scene, it bothers me. There's something so off about this scene that makes it so freaking creepy. I think about it all the time. And it's not even like the movie, I just think about that scene. So I don't know what it is about Mulholland Drive, I don't know what it is about this scene, but it just stays in my head and I play it from start to finish. The guy with the trance, talking about what he sees, going behind the diner, and then it just plays out. I don't know, maybe I'm losing my mind, maybe I'm just a weird guy, but that scene really bothers me. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.